Today, we're going to deconstruct a really fundamental shift that's happening in Nepal's most vital economic sector. Now, this is a story about agriculture for sure, but it's not about ideology or charity. At its core, this is all about a solid investment thesis. And the way this is framed is absolutely critical. You see, it moves the entire conversation away from being an environmental issue and puts it squarely in the world of finance and economics. We're talking about a strategy to build climate resilience, to break our dependency on volatile imports, and ultimately to secure the very foundation of the national economy. You know, for decades, our national strategy has really focused on everything above ground. But that has created a massive and growing economic vulnerability, a vulnerability that we can actually put a number on. So let's break down this national liability. To really understand the opportunity here, we first have to get our heads around the liability, a liability that's sitting on the national balance sheet, and it's called soil debt. For years, decades really, our agricultural model has been operating on credit. We've been extracting short-term yields by, well, liquidating our most precious natural capital, the health of our soil. We've essentially been borrowing from the future. And now, the bill is coming due. So here's the crucial point. That number, it's not just a cost. It's the interest payment on that soil debt we've been racking up. It is a massive drain on our foreign currency reserves, and it's being spent on inputs that are becoming less and less effective. Why? Because the underlying asset, the soil itself, is broken. Let's look at what that means. This comparison really gets to the heart of it. On the left, you've got healthy soil, high in what's called soil organic matter, or SOM. It acts just like a sponge, holding on to water and nutrients. But on the right, that's our current reality. Degraded soil with less than 1% SOM. It can't hold water, which leads to floods and landslides. And it can't hold nutrients, which means that 30 billion NPR worth of fertilizer we're importing, a huge chunk of it just washes away. We are literally paying more for less, year after year. But what if we could rebuild this asset? Well, that's where the regenerative economic engine comes in. And it's not about adding more stuff. It's about implementing a smarter operating system, one that's built on 4 key principles. So let's look at how each of these principles actually builds value. Minimal tilling, right away, that slashes your operational costs. Less fuel, less labor, less machinery wear and tear. Keeping the soil covered with things like cover crops. Think of that as asset protection. You're stopping your topsoil from literally eroding away. Increasing biodiversity, say by planting legumes, means you're insourcing your own nitrogen production, directly substituting the need for importing urea. And finally, integrating livestock closes the whole loop, turning a waste product back into a valuable input. You see, this isn't just better farming, it's just plain better business. Okay, so beyond all the cost savings and risk reduction, there lies what is probably the most disruptive opportunity of all, the ability to farm an entirely new commodity. And I'm not talking about paddy or maize. I'm talking about carbon. The science behind this is pretty simple. These regenerative practices, they naturally pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere, and they store it securely in the soil as organic matter. Now, this process of sequestration, it's measurable, it's verifiable, and it's incredibly valuable on the global carbon markets. And the business model itself is actually quite straightforward. Farmers improve their soil, that improvement gets measured and certified as carbon credits, and then those credits are sold to companies around the world who are looking to offset their emissions. It creates a brand new revenue stream from the exact same piece of land. And the financial impact? It's significant. We're talking about a potential 15 to 20% increase in net income for a typical smallholder farmer, based on conservative estimates. Now remember, this isn't a subsidy. This is a new source of earned income for being a better steward of the land. Now, what's really interesting here is that Nepal is uniquely positioned to actually win in this space. Unlike in a lot of other countries, we already have the social infrastructure, all these cooperatives and community groups that can solve the single biggest challenge. How do you pull together thousands of small farms into a single, large-scale, bankable project? We've already got the models to do it. So all of this brings us to a very clear inflection point. The choices that policymakers and investors make right now are going to lock in one of 3 very, very different futures for the country. Let's look at the options. Scenario 1, inertia is just the status quo. That means slow decline. Scenario 2, a fragmented push, might create some niche successes, but it's going to leave most farmers behind. But scenario 3, a strategic national alignment, that is where the real prize is. This is the path that delivers broad-based income growth, that slashes our import dependency, and that builds true national resilience. This is the path to leadership. So, what's stopping us? Well, the bottleneck isn't technology, it's not a lack of knowledge, and it's not unwilling farmers. The single greatest obstacle is policy inertia. Specifically, it's our current subsidy system. This really puts the choice in stark terms, doesn't it? We can keep going with these short-term political handouts that are actually degrading our core national asset, or we can make a strategic shift. We can phase out that counterproductive fertilizer subsidy and instead start paying farmers directly for performance, for verified improvements in their soil health. Just this one shift would realign the entire system. It would start rewarding farmers for building value instead of just extracting it. It would unleash a wave of private investment and position Nepal as a global leader in this space. So the question is no longer about the potential of our soil, it's about the courage of our leadership.